Welcome to UNCAGED, a show that celebrates thought leadership from today's top business leaders. The program provides a voice to amazing executives from around the globe who are shaping the world of business today and mapping the path to the commerce of tomorrow. Today, we've got Lou Hughes on the show. Hey, Lou, how are you?
Great, man. How are you?
I'm really well. Lou, I'm excited to talk to you about a topic that is very much on the minds of a lot of business executives that certainly handle global business. Lou Hughes is the CEO of Beyonics, and he is an expert on engineering and manufacturing solutions. Beyonics is a company that started in 1981. They provide advanced precision engineering and manufacturing solutions for the healthcare, automotive, and technology sectors. They have 5 manufacturing locations in 4 countries, including Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and China, and have over 7,000 employees globally. Beyonics is a big player. They're a top 50 global EMS company. And so, Lou, we're excited to learn more from you on what's happening in your space. But before we get there, tell us a little bit about yourself and your career today.
Well, so I'm a mechanical engineer. I worked for General Electric for about 14 years when I came out of college. I just noticed today in the Wall Street Journal that the front page of the Wall Street Journal outlined kind of the death of General Electric, which is just amazing about, how far that company's come. But when I worked there, General Electric was a powerhouse. I was in 3 of the businesses: aircraft engines, appliances, and then I finished up in plastics. And that plastics experience is kind of what I took forward through really the rest of my career, because I spent a lot of time in manufacturing and in sales in plastics. And so that's really, brought me through, a number of other positions over time. And I ended up at Beyonics about 3 years ago. And Beyonics is a precision components manufacturer that also does some turnkey assembly where it makes sense. But our core is in building precision components and assemblies for big tier 1 automotive companies like Bosch and Aptiv and Valeo and Sensata and Lear, and go down the list, as well as building medical precision components and assemblies. And we have a number of very large medical customers that we build for. And it's injection molding, it's tool making, it's sheet metal stamping, it's die casting, all that boring stuff that
no, but it's all it
right?
May sound boring, but it's actually obviously absolutely critical. And it's interesting, when we look at the supply chain and all of the challenges that we're seeing right now, all of those things that may seem simplistic are actually critical all of a sudden. So tell me more about the work that you guys are doing and how that fits into that broader global business challenge today.
So, the work that we do, so the mechanical part of a product, any product that you would see or touch or interact with in this world, is, the cost of the mechanical part of it is probably 15%, whereas the electrical part, the electronics, are 85%. But the number of mechanical components in a product is about 85%, and the number of electronic components is about 15%. So, and that's in most of the products that we touch. So you've got a lot of assembly, fasteners. You've got a lot of precision components that go in for plastics and stamp parts. And so, and the mechanical components are always custom to the product. It's very rare that any mechanical component is standard. So in what we do, the lead times tend to be long because we have to build custom tooling for our customers. And everything then has to come together. There's tolerances that are critical in most applications. And those tolerances get tighter and tighter as products become, higher and higher performance. So, in my world, in our world, which is the mechanical world, it gets harder and harder to satisfy customers because they expect very low cost, they expect very fast turnaround times, and they expect fantastic quality. Because that's the other part of what's happening in the world today. We used to be in this world where AQL, that's called acceptable quality level, was the standard back in the 80s and 90s, where you'd say, hey, the ASTM standard is you can accept 5 parts per thousand to be defective. And that was considered good quality, right? Then we got into Six Sigma, and we got into the statistical analysis about, how, from a parts per million perspective, how many parts could we have? And we got that all the way out to, 10 parts per million could be defective. Now we're in this world that's called zero defect, where our customers expect absolutely zero bad parts delivered to them. So this is especially true in mission critical applications for our medical and automotive customers, where they say, if you deliver a single bad part to us out of 20 million, it is a major, major federal case. We're going to have meetings,
Well, it's I guess it's that kind of the classic dilemma. You need to be great, you also need to be cheap, and you need to be fast.
It used to be pick any two, right? You can be cheap and you can be fast, but maybe it won't be great. You can be great and you can be fast, but you're not going to be cheap. You could pick any two. But now the world is so competitive. And the world has gotten flatter and flatter. I mean, we're competing head to head with German companies out of Singapore. We're competing with Chinese companies. We're competing with American companies. So we're all in kind of a level playing field, and we've got to be great to win, and that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and I mean, you also are working in an environment where the dynamics of the marketplace are radically shifting under your feet. Tell us a little bit more about some of the things that you guys are seeing in that area.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just crazy with COVID. When COVID hit, there was I guess the biggest impact of COVID for us is lack of labor portability, right? So what happens around the world is labor moves, right? So when you're in China and you're building products on the coast of China, up and down the coast, because that's where the population is and that's where most of the factories are, the labor is moving from the inland provinces out to the coast, right?
Right.
So that's where you're getting your lower cost labor from. And that labor movement during COVID was restricted. They just couldn't move around. They were going back to their home provinces, and a lot of them weren't coming back. And so then, switch to the rest of the world, where we operate mostly in Southeast Asia. All of a sudden borders were closed. So Singapore, we couldn't get the Indonesian labor. We couldn't get the Nepalese labor. We really struggled because labor just wasn't available. Same thing in Malaysia. Typically in Malaysia, we would again source labor from other countries, and you're seeing that in the U.S. Right? In the U.S., we in the U.S. do depend on labor coming up from Latin America, even in hotels and restaurants and things during the summertime last summer, people were frustrated by lack of service at hotels because, we just didn't have that portability of labor. So that was a big issue, and we still haven't solved that. The borders are still closed in Asia. So we still struggle with that every day. Rising raw material costs. I mean, aluminum ingot is at its highest point that it's been at over the last, say 10 to 15 years. And it seems like it's continuing to go up. It's hard to get because, there's not enough return of what we do in aluminum. A lot of it is based on recycle.
Right.
So when they don't get the recycled product back, you end up with limited supply and costs go up and availability goes down. Same thing with plastics. Prices are going up, and you've probably heard everything about ICs.
Right.
ICs are incredibly hard to come by. So then that creates this sense of scarcity. Then people hoard. So, I see my buyers buying, I catch them buying 12 months of product in advance, and we end up with all these ballooning inventories. We have too much of one thing and not enough of another. So it's that becomes a real struggle. And then lastly, it's logistics and shipping, right? If you have seen some of the scenes off of Long Beach with all the container ships backed up. Used to be you could ship a 40-foot container from Shenzhen to Long Beach for $1,500. Now that costs $25.
I saw a great cartoon of a family doing their holiday shopping in a boat, going out to the boats off of Long Beach.
Yeah, well, that would be a great way to do it now. And I'll tell you, that has rippling effects when the cost of shipping goes up by 20x. So and these are things that not only we face but our customers face. So
how does that impact? I see the rising costs. I wish I'd held on to all of those aluminum Coke cans that I've consumed over the years. Probably could be, the next goal.
You're a rich man now.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
I mean, how does it impact the way you guys approach your operation going forward? I mean, there have been obviously a lot of discussions about how the supply chain is evolving and shifting so that we don't have kind of these massive shortages that we're seeing. I mean, I'm seeing it all over the place. I was on a call the other day about the automotive industry and how few new car models are actually going to be coming out, right? Because everybody seems to be pushing their new models, not for 2022, but for 2023 and beyond, because they need the new components, right?
Yeah. The sad thing is there's some beautiful new cars, right? Like the Bronco. Right. The Bronco, I can give you 10 examples. I'll give you one. We build a lot of components for that vehicle, and that vehicle is in high demand. People want that vehicle. Its pre-orders are out 10, 12 months, right? And you can't get it. And so, because they can't get the ICs and a number of other components that have to go into that vehicle to get it built. Yeah. And so, it's sad. And so because all the innovation, all the engineering, all the design work, because for any vehicle, companies like us, it takes 3 to 4 years of NPI development to get to that production phase. Right. So there's a lot of money spent by all the suppliers in investing really in the future of that vehicle. So we were so excited last year knowing that we were on so many of these new vehicles. Right. But then here we are where, these new vehicles just can't get built because we're missing some of the critical components. So
I know it's a complicated time, and I'm imagining that hopefully it'll open up next year at some point, but certainly in the short term, it's going to be tricky. And I think that's where I've heard a lot of things like some of the engineering and manufacturing components might actually shift in the way they've been done in the past, right? So there may be stuff done in other markets that it hasn't been done in the past. Is that something that you're seeing as well?
Oh yeah, I mean, this started back, with the 302 tariffs that were on China, and that anywhere from say 15% to 25% tariff level. That's most of the products that you buy. The margins people make manufacturing those products is anywhere from 15 to 25%. So you add 25% tariff on top of that, and you just can't afford that, right? So most of the manufacturers, or many of them, are moving their production out of China when they seek to export from China.
Wow.
So
now, so China then becomes a domestic market.
Yeah, China, like we have a facility in China, up in northern China, where for our multinational customers, we will build for them in China for China, because a lot of them, have global markets that they serve, and including China, they serve China. And so our facilities, when we do a global program or run a global program, will have tooling or production up in China for that domestic market. And that's kind of the way it shifted. Now, all of the markets aren't that way. Medical, the margins are so high.
Right.
They don't even care. So most of the medical business has stayed there for export. Some of the retail consumer stuff like furniture, a lot of that has stayed because the margins are so high.
Right.
So, where the margins are high, the OEMs or product people have been slow to move.
Right. So it's pretty much kind of vertical by vertical, and the higher end verticals or higher value verticals, you're still going to see basically.
That's right, out of there. And, but it's been good for us because our center of gravity at Beyonics is, Southeast Asia, and Southeast Asia still has a really good work ethic and still has low cost labor. So, that has been a real boon for us, receiving the OEMs that are trying to find a competitive place to do business that doesn't have that tariff. So we've been the beneficiaries of that in terms of the growth of our business, and our business has grown 40% a year over the last 2 years. But we've then at the operating level been scrambling around to figure out how to service that growth efficiently.
So, I mean, Lou, when you look forward, what are the areas that you imagine that you're going to prioritize? I mean, it sounds like it's a market where you're going to have to select a couple of areas to make sure they're running smoothly. What does the future look like?
So I'll tell you what the future looks like for me and for us at Beyonics, and probably for every company, if they're smart, will be focused on these things. The first one is automation. So I mentioned labor portability. I mentioned increasing costs of labor. That's a dynamic that's going to continue. And so manufacturers like us have to be committed to automation, because the other thing I mentioned about quality, I may have discussed that, but customers are really demanding quality. And so manual labor, manual assembly, manual intervention has variability. Right. So, to the extent that you can automate, you can kill two birds with one stone, drive your quality level up and drive your costs down. So we're incredibly focused on hiring automation engineers, production engineers. Got a really good team today that we're growing and we're investing in. And we see that as a really big part of our future. The second thing is planning. So, we have good supply chain planning tools today, but they're good, they're not great. Right. And so what we're really trying to do is invest in and look at every available best-in-class tool that we can bring into the company to help us plan better, and hiring the right people in planning. It's not okay anymore to be an average planner, because it has gotten so complex with lead time shifting around. And with a bill of materials that might have 100 parts. Boy, you better be right in your planning, because if one of those parts is missing, you'll be sitting on 99, and it kills your cash flow. The third thing.
Well, there may be a huge business opportunity there for you. Maybe applying some blockchain technology in that space to track it. Right. That's pretty interesting.
So the last thing is power. The cost of power is skyrocketing. So electricity, mostly at all of our facilities, Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, China, we're seeing rates for electricity go up by, anywhere from 30% to 500%, depending on the location. So we've got to be smarter about utilization. And this means doing complete power reviews on all of our equipment, looking at inverters, things like variable frequency drives, variable speed drives, putting that in front of our compressors, our chillers, our heavy equipment, looking at solar, looking really to reduce our utilization of electricity in half. That's our goal over the next 24 months. I'm driving our team to think differently about power because I see the future, at least, of our business in heavy industry, because our equipment, we have huge die casting machines.
Are you seeing that governments are supporting that? I mean, it seems that I would imagine they would be giving you guys benefits like tax benefits, et cetera, for that.
Not yet.
Okay.
And I think the U.S. is, but we don't operate in the U.S. And what China has done to us is China. You probably read some of this, but they just shut the power off.
Yeah, and no, so, I know that
in October, like the officials would come by and say, "Oh, surprise, we're closing you down," right? Yeah. And so we would ask, "Well, wait a second, how long are you closing us down for?" We don't know. Well, what do you mean you don't know? Oh, well, we'll get back to you. You definitely have to shut down this week, and we'll come back on Sunday and let you know if you can open again. And obviously, customers don't like that kind of lack of consistency, stability in their supply chain. They don't want to hear that you can't deliver or ship and that you don't know when you can, right?
Yeah, so that's got to be a joyful conversation. I imagine you get some pretty angry calls from some of your big clients, I imagine.
Gosh, you can't even imagine.
Yeah. Well, Lou, thank you so much. I mean, it's been incredible to talk to you about what you and Beyonics is working on. And certainly we are living in a world where anyone who's involved in any aspect of the engineering and manufacturing supply chain, especially for some of those industries that you guys touch, healthcare, automotive, and technology, this is a very fluid landscape, but also one that's going to be unbelievably critical going forward and evolving quickly. And I really enjoyed what you had to say about the focus that Beyonics is having on automation and how that's going to be a key part of your plans going forward. We've been speaking with Lou Hughes. Lou is the CEO of Beyonics. Beyonics International is a top 50 global EMS company. They were founded in 1981, and they provide advanced precision engineering and manufacturing solutions for healthcare, automotive, and technology. Lou, if someone wanted to reach you and learn more about what you guys are up to, where should they find you?
Well, online, obviously, www.beyonics.com is our website, and of course, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm an open networker, so to the extent anybody wants to get a hold of me personally, just come to LinkedIn, connect with me, and engage. I mean, I'm interested in engaging with the world.
Excellent. Well, Lou, thank you so much for being on Uncaged today, and we look forward to talking to you again.
Ben, thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Bye.